What's up guys, Rogue9 here, and as those of you who follow my Twitter account will know, I recently attended London's biggest game event for the year, EGX Rezzed. Many of the games at this convention are from smaller studios and flying under the radar of the general video games media, so in this video I want to give you a rundown of my top 5 games of the show along with a few honorable mentions. Let's go! Coming in at number 5 is a game from a series that many of you will recognize. It is the Total War saga Thrones of Britannia, developed by Creative Assembly. If you've played any of the Total War games before, this game will look familiar to you and you will know that it will offer a mixture of turn-based and real-time strategy gameplay. But Thrones of Britannia also makes significant upgrades to the Total War formula, with changes to the hero leveling system, the addition of a war fervor and weariness mechanic for your kingdom. Researching technologies is a little more demanding, and it is the technology research that allows you to upgrade your troops, not the construction of more advanced buildings. But these changes aside, what intrigues me the most is the historical setting of this game, where you start in Britain in the year 878, shortly after the Viking invasion. This is the same time period covered in two of my favourite historical TV series, Vikings and The Last Kingdom. Both of these series are set during the same time period as Thrones of Britannia, and especially if you're a fan of The Last Kingdom, you will already know a number of the factions and heroes represented in Thrones of Britannia. If you're interested in the game, pre-orders are available now and the final release will be on May 3rd, 2018. My number 4 is Conan Exiles. As the name suggests, this open-world survival game is set in the Conan the Barbarian universe, and having had a brief chance to play the pre-release build, I would call this game a decently polished version of Ark Survival. You will have the opportunity of growing crops and hunting animals for food, gathering resources to craft tools and weapons, and building shelters and even settlements and strongholds, and all of these mechanics will feel familiar to fans of the open-world survival genre. If you've always wanted to live the life of a hunter-gatherer fighting for survival against thirst and starvation as well as huge outlandish monsters, or if you're simply a fan of muscled men and women in loincloths, this game may well interest you. The game has been available in early access for over a year now and will be officially releasing on May 8th, 2018. Reviews of the early access version are mostly positive, with most of the criticism being focused on bad experiences of coming up against cheaters in the official PvP servers. Sadly, this seems to be a problem that affects many online games nowadays, and let's hope that once the game is officially released, the developer Funcom can pay a little more attention to including some more robust anti-cheat measures. In the bronze medal position of my top 5 games of EGX Rezzed is Phoenix Point. This game very strongly resembles the XCOM franchise, and this is no surprise really, since the game is developed by Julian Gollop's studio Snapshot Games, and Julian is of course the creator of the original XCOM games way back in 1994 and 1997. Phoenix Point promises to take the turn-based tactical combat genre to the next level by including an alien enemy faction that will evolve in between battles to specifically counter the tactics and technologies used against them by the player in previous battles. A more realistic ballistic system and multiple other human factions that will compete with the player for limited resources will further add to the game's more nuanced gameplay. So if the more recent XCOM games were too easy for you, then maybe an adaptive AI is just the challenge you've been looking for. The game is set to release in the 4th quarter of 2018 and will be available on Steam as well as other PC and Mac-based platforms. My second favourite game of the show was Warhammer Vermintide 2. This game is a loot-driven 4-player first-person co-op melee action game. Jeez, that's a mouthful. Try saying that quickly 3 times in a row. A popular series that I've often seen Vermintide compared to is the Left 4 Dead series, since both games are 4-player co-op with procedurally generated enemies and the possibility of slight mission path variations within each map. Of course, the setting of the two games is completely different, with Vermintide being a predominantly melee-based game where you fight against the Chaos Army and Skaven from the Warhammer universe. But in addition to this, Vermintide goes beyond the Left 4 Dead formula in that the game comes with 5 different heroes that each have 3 career choices and their own unique skill trees. After completing one of the 13 different levels currently in the game, each player is rewarded with loot and skill points that can be used to permanently advance their character. The game is already available on Steam right now, with launches for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One expected later on in 2018. I really enjoyed my time with the game while on the show floor, and my impressions are supported by the current review scores, like the 81% score on Metacritic. Some reviews on Steam mention that there are still a number of bugs to be ironed out, and that some of the individual skills are not properly implemented yet, but the overall Steam trend is still 76% positive. And now, before we get to my personal number one game of EGX Rezzed 2018, here are a few honourable mentions. Not really a fully fledged game at this stage, but more of an experimental concept, is inventor Robin Baumgarten's Wobble Garden. This handcrafted arrangement of touch-sensitive springs combined with reactive lighting and sound was quite fascinating, especially when combined with a pair of light-refracting glasses. Ooh, look at how shiny it is. Cube 2's first-person puzzle action looks promising and reminded me a lot of the Portal series. The gameplay and graphics were solid in the demo I played on the show floor, and the game's reception on Steam has been very positive. Looking to scratch that first-person puzzle platformer itch? Then this game may be for you. If, on the other hand, rhythm games are your thing and you like heavy metal rock music, then Double Kick Heroes might interest you. The game uses retro-style graphics and features gameplay where you will be fighting zombies by hitting the beats of the music. An interesting enough twist on the classic rhythm game genre, but what I personally liked most about the game was the outstanding music. French developer Piece of Cake Studios showed off their co-op-focused stealth game Hack Tag. One player is a stealth agent, the other a hacker, and both must work together closely in order to complete their mission across 24 different levels. Some parts of each mission, such as alarms, guards, and objectives, are procedurally generated, so no playthrough should feel quite the same. Persistent character development at the end of each mission will further serve to bring players back again and again. The game is best played online or in split screen, but can also be played solo and is already available on Steam now. Next, I present to you Disco Elysium, a story-driven role-playing game where you take control of a down-and-out cop working to solve a massive open-ended murder case. The gameplay is dialogue-focused, and the way you choose to interact with the people in the city of Revachol, or is it Revachol? I don't know, will influence the development of your character's skills and attributes. The game is set for a PC release later on in 2018, with potential console releases afterwards. Possibly one of the most promising games at the show, but still in relatively early development, is the open-world investigation game The Sinking City. The game is developed by Frogwares, who are best known for their Sherlock Holmes video game series, and with this new game they take everything that made the Sherlock Holmes games great and transport the concept into an H.P. Lovecraft-inspired fantasy setting. Players will take control of a private investigator in the city of Oakmont, Massachusetts in the 1920s. At first, everything seems normal apart from a recent unusual flooding of the city, but it very quickly becomes clear that the rising waters are part of supernatural developments that will threaten the entire city and maybe even the world. And it's this Lovecraft-inspired setting that intrigues me the most. What could be more fun than fighting an invasion of outer-dimensional monsters with a Thompson submachine gun? And finally, my number one game of EGX Rezzed is the third-person 1 to 4 player co-op action-adventure game Strange Brigade. Developed by Rebellion Developments, the British studio behind the outstanding Sniper Elite series, this game promises to be great fun. The game is set during the 1930s and will have players engaging in Indiana Jones-style archaeological exploration with a healthy dash of mummies and other mythical monsters thrown in. And as long as there are no aliens with crystal skulls, that's all fine by me. Each player can choose from 4 different heroes, which each have access to a choice of different weapon loadouts, and each come with their own special equipment and abilities. If there's one thing that makes the game stand out to me, it's being able to play with a group of friends, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more news about Strange Brigade. The game is going to be available on Steam, Xbox One and PS4, and although there is no fixed release date at this stage, the devs representing the game at Rezzed promised me that a release date would be announced soon. So those are my thoughts. Did you manage to get to EGX Rezzed? What were your favourite games and what do you think of my picks? Leave your comments below, and with that, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and I will see you in the next episode. With changes to the hero leveling system, the addition of a War Fervor and action-adventure game, Strange Brigade. Oh, come on! Strange Brigade.